Welcome to the 8th grade Math Homework Helper Series. Today's homework is EL4, Graphing Linear Functions Using Their Solutions. We'll start by taking a look at question number 1. State in each case whether the point whose coordinates are given is on the graph of the equation. So let's look at 1b. We have 2y equals 3x minus 5, and we have a coordinate pair of negative 1, 4. So we'll start by remembering that when we have a coordinate pair, the first number is always x, the second number is always y. Then once we figured that out, we need to plug this in for the equation. And that's going to look like this. So since y was negative 4, we have 2 times negative 4 equals 3 times x, which was negative 1. So 3 times negative 1 minus 5. Keeping in mind, the whole point of this is, as we work it down, we want this side of the equal sign and this side of the equal sign to match. If it's true, if they do match, then it will be on the graph of the equation. If it turns out they don't match, then it's not on the graph of the equation. So let's find out if they match. We're going to do some multiplication. We've got negative 4 times 2. That's going to give us negative 8. 3 times negative 1 is going to give us negative 3 minus 5. Of course, when you have two negatives, you're going to add them but keep the negative. And so it works out to be negative 8 equals negative 8. They do match, and so the answer to is negative 1, negative 4 on the graph of the equation is yes, it is on the graph of the equation. Next, we're going to take a look at number 3. 3 says that find in each case the value that can replace k so that the graph of the resulting equation will pass through the point whose coordinates are given. So here are the coordinates given. Here's the equation. Remembering that x is always the first number again, y is always the second. And just like before, we're going to plug them in. So we have 5 minus negative 3 equals k. The two negatives make a positive, so really what we're doing is adding 5 and 3. So of course 8 equals k. Our last problem for today is number 5, and it says graph each equation using a table of values. So I've got my table of values over here, but looking at this equation, it's really not in the right format for me to be working with it yet. I want y equals mx plus b to be the format that I'm using. And right now, that means that this negative 3x is on the wrong side of the equal sign. I need to get it over to this side. And I can do that by adding 3x to both sides. That will cancel this one out. And the negative 5 and the 3 really can't combine because this is an x and that's not. So the 3x and the negative 5 are just going to come down, as is the y. And because I want to keep it in this format, I'm going to put the 3x first, and then the negative 5 second. Once I have it in this format, I can then start creating my table. So my first column is going to be my x values. My second column is going to be the equation that I created, 3x minus 5. My third column is going to be my y value. And my fourth column is going to be my coordinate pair, x and y. So I need to generate some x values here. I'm going to start with negative 1, 0, 1, and then 2. Those are random, but it's a nice selection because it gives me a negative answer as well as some positive answers. Next, I'm going to plug this negative 1 in for x here. So I have 3 times negative 1 minus 5. And when I solve that, my answer is going to be y, which in this case works out to be negative 8. Over here, I'm going to take the negative 1 and the negative 8 and write them as a coordinate pair. Once I have a coordinate pair, I'm going to plot it. So I start at 0, 0. I go to the left 1 and down 8. And my first point is right there. Okay, now let's work with 0. I'm going to plug 0 in for x, so I have 3 times 0 minus 5, which works out to be minus 5. So my coordinate pair is 0 minus 5. And I'm going to put that one on my graph too. So starting in the center, I go left or right 0, and then I go down negative 5. Right there. Okay. The next one, I'm using a 1 for x, so 3 times 1 minus 5 gives me a negative 2. So I have a value of 1, negative 2. Starting at the center, I go to the right 1 and down 2. And lastly, I've got the number 2 for my x value. So I've got 3 times 2 minus 5, which works out to be a positive 1. So my coordinate pair for this one is 2, 1. And I'll plot that as well. Starting at the center, I go right 2, up 1, and there we go. Now, I need to make a line go through that. Just like that. And I also need to come up with a name, and I shall name it y equals 3x minus 5. Please use the problems that were done to help you solve the additional problems that you have on your homework. And remember, the key to success in math is not only working hard, but working smart.